Welcome to the Band of Gamers Podcast, episode number 62. My name is Greylock3491. Never changes. It's always the same. And this week, I am joined by Osiris Prime.
Hello, everybody. I remembered to take it off mute this time.
Yes, for the win. Zeus Adamus.
Ba Black Sheep.
And if we keep it on, I couldn't read his entire shirt. And a returning special guest, Solo Racer X.
Hello.
Welcome back, Solo. So good to have you back. We also may have DBQ jump in here any moment, so we're looking forward to seeing him. But with that said, there's some big news we want to cover in this show. As a matter of fact, we had a lot of stuff left over from the last show we wanted to cover, but we kind of pushed that down a little bit because there's one big story that happened this week that we really want to get into. But before we do that, let's do what we always do and talk about what we've been playing. And I'll go first as I have the floor. And I've just been playing Elite Dangerous. And matter of fact, it's because it's one of those games you can play co-op, you can play single player, you can play open world, and it's the same. Your progress just translates immediately to all three. I've actually got in 3 months 150 hours into it, which for me, a time-strapped gamer, is impressive. But what I've been doing is when the wife takes a nap or when she sleeps in, I've just been finding all these convenient times to just throw it in for a couple hours. And it's one of those games where you're like, I'm just going to do one more mission, and that one more mission can be an hour. Matter of fact, I gotta learn how not to get roped into that because it does take up a good percentage of your day if you do. So now, out of all my friends, I am not. I mean, there are people who have twice as much as a time into it as I do, but I was surprised about that I put so much time into it. But a fun game. The big patch drops tomorrow that adds just a whole bunch of stuff. But I think the big one everybody's looking forward to, it would be that bigger ships will be able to carry their own fighters. And if you're the captain of that ship, you'll be able to jump in the fighter and launch out of it and go attack the bad guys while your AI flies your ship around. Or you can do vice versa. If you don't want to leave your ship, you can have the AI fly your fighter. So that's probably the big thing. A lot of little things being fixed and tweaked. And I guess the other thing that everybody's excited about is the ability to remotely call your ship to the station you're at. So if you've left your spaceship 400 or 500 light years away, you can order it to come to where you are. And that's really helpful because a lot of times the fighters that you use in combat don't have the largest jump range. They have the best shields, the best armor, but not the best jump range. So it's usually better if you're going to meet up with somebody to take something with a good jump range, like a cargo hauler, or a freight hauler, and then just order your ship up so you can do local combat there. But that's it. That's what I've been playing. So I want to welcome DBQ Hands, not only to the show, because he's just a couple seconds late, but also to tell us, DB, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I guess I got here just in time. Sorry for the delay, guys. But I've been busy. I'm still in home moving mode and have not had much of a chance to play too much after talking and raving about Battlefield 1 last week. So really what I've been playing has been on portable devices. So I played a little bit of the demo of World of Final Fantasy, which is it's a turn-based Final Fantasy game. It's coming out on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. It plays it's like a mashup of Pokemon and Kingdom Hearts, which may sound terrible or it may sound wonderfully crazy. That it plays out like a old school 8-bit, 16-bit RPG in terms of turn-based battles, but you have the ability to you're hopping through different worlds and meeting different characters from old Final Fantasy games and battling different enemies throughout Final Fantasy's history. But you can collect them and capture them almost in like a Pokeball type of thing and use them. So the demo itself is relatively thin, but it gives you a chance to get a feeling of the game. Zeus, I know you had PlayStation 4. Did you get a chance to try it?
I'm sorry, I was mildly distracted. What was the game title again?
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure if you had a question about it. So this was the World of Final Fantasy game.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm still. There was a brief period in history where I was going to force myself to play games in that genre, and I grew out of it. But I want to ask you. So, are you like in a new studio or something?
Oh, I am hours away from having a contractor come to cut out windows in my basement.
Okay.
So if you're hearing a massive echo, I apologize because my basement is relatively barren, or actually it's all packed over on one side.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm not in a new studio yet. This is the first step. We're putting in 2 egress windows so that over the winter I can work on finishing up the basement to then put some drywall up, make a room, have a studio space. Yeah.
Very nice. Are you sitting on a stool, by the way?
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just short. I'm in a chair.
I can tell you because you're on your laptop. So I was like, is this your like new like production?
No, it's
Okay.
a very barren wall as I'm wearing a white shirt. You know, I'm not quite as ergonomically correct as you in standing up during the podcast. So
You look very nice.
hunched over. So yeah, so I played that and then just been playing on mobile. So there's a card game, or not a card game, but Plants vs. Zombies Heroes, which kind of plays out like Hearthstone, but with the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare characters and the characters from the original strategy game. Kind of fun. Played enough to kind of hit that wall of, do I need to buy cards to be able to keep playing, or do I need to really start grinding right when you hit that kind of free-to-play wall? So not a whole lot, nothing really exciting. So I'm going to pass it off and let somebody else talk about something probably a little more exciting. Prime,
There you go. I was going to say, you got to pick somebody.
Oh, no!
Usually pretty good with that, but that's all right. You got in late. So yeah, I played a few things this past week. Battlefield 1, I was actually able to play with. I played with World for I think 1 day this past week. We kind of missed each other last week, and I wanted to kind of get together, but we were all busy, so kind of stuff got shuffled around. But then I played with him. I think it was like Sunday or Monday of this past week, and having a good time. Of course, it's a great game. I'm really enjoying it. A little bit different, obviously, than most stuff that's out. The shooters out now. It's not a futuristic shooter or semi-futuristic. Back in World War One, so I'm enjoying it. I still have only played Conquest so far, so I want to hopefully get on with a group and try some of the other modes, try to get that going. And then much like Gray, I've been playing Elite Dangerous. I've jumped on with, I think Gray, we got together a little bit over the past week. Played with Spiral and Jetty and Bullet, all those guys, same crew basically. And I'm actually looking forward to that ship transfer because it's kind of a pain in the butt to leaving your ship in one system and then buying another one. You got to go back and forth. So then the other thing I've been playing, I actually played the Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare beta over the weekend, and I mean honestly, the thing played a lot like Black Ops 3, which was the last one that came out last year for that Treyarch did. This is by Infinity Ward. Controls are pretty much the same thing. I mean, you're doing basically the same actions. You can wall run and double jump and do all these different kind of things. And there's the different classes that they had, like in Black Ops 3. So it's very similar. I don't really see any difference, which I know a lot of people say that of Call of Duty. But I guess there's supposed to be some. I don't know if you can like make your own weapons or if there's like some kind of like building element to that. I didn't see it during the beta, so I'm not really sure.
Wait, dude, please don't use the word. Are you saying?
Hold on, can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Crafting.
There you go. I couldn't think of it.
You can break down guns into more materials and do the thing that Zeus loves so much.
That's it. I'm out. No Call of Duty for me this year.
So that's the multiplayer. I don't know if you can do that too in the single player, but hopefully the single player is like kind of where they put all their strength into, maybe, because honestly the multiplayer, like I said, it's like Black Ops 3 basically. So, and that's not a bad thing. I love Black Ops 3. The controls are way better than what was it, Advanced Warfare before that. So still a solid shooter, So I'm not panning it, but there's nothing really different this time that I see. Usually there is, but this year definitely nothing that I see yet. So
I would actually prefer if all that crafting, that's actually appropriate. I didn't mean to say that, but my word fumble, I did call it crafting. It would actually be better if that were in the single player, so that the multiplayer would be unfettered and unburdened, right? Because I'm still on this philosophical high horse about, like, one of the things that makes me so bent about online multiplayer gaming these days is how complicated they make it, and nothing can obfuscate and interfere and get in between you and fun more than crafting.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's not. It's kind of interesting to see how they do it, because obviously, multiplayer, it's kind of hard to balance that stuff out. So
that's the thing. So and I get it, and maybe it's a little unfair, but I get I prefer multiplayer systems where I am not at a disadvantage because I didn't put 32 hours into the game this week, right? Yeah. So, when you create systems like that, what it's going to yield is people who, don't work as much as you or don't have families or whatever can pour, time into the game that, in my opinion, gives them unbalanced advantages. And I get that it's okay for games like that to exist. It just bends me out of shape when, like, every game, has that, or a preponderance of the games have that. Then you have to seek out the ones that are just kind of old school, that you drop into a lobby, see 16 other people, vote on a map and go.
Yeah. And if the matchmaking was actually there like it should be, like I actually put you in the group of, say you're level 5, put you on level 5, but it doesn't do that at all. And never have I ever seen that work at all.
Right. So. Or like the Forza games, right? Because with Forza Motorsport, not Horizon, I was the chieftain of the lobby. The lobby dude. I mean, there's an ability to set the races for, like, no upgrades or no tuning or something like that.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll have to, we'll see what happens.
Yes, it does.
Does it? Oh yeah, solo would know. I forgot you're on solo. Sorry.
No, but I think to Zeus's point, I think that's where I found Halo 5 last year so refreshing, and Overwatch, I think, is where it's finding a hook this year, is because it's that Team Fortress type of thing where it's not about have you grinded enough to unlock the next weapon. Everybody just starts on the same platform every single time, and so they're very much about skill versus the amount of hours that you've put in. But it sounds like, from what I've been reading, Prime, that the crafting element is much more. It's kind of like breaking it down. It's very similar to what it sounds like with Destiny, in terms of getting enough materials to upgrade to the next spot. And so it's not necessarily, it seems like, Minecraft crafting, but more like just a way to break down a card pack and use those to power up. I'm sure there's going to be microtransactions in there because this is Activision after all. So
yeah, so it's more like it's basically a new way to level up, basically, instead of just getting reaching like 50,000 points or something like that. Now you can just craft and reach that level, I suppose. I guess, I don't know, I haven't really seen. So, and I don't know if that was really in the beta. I didn't really get to play it all too much as I would have liked, but yeah, we'll have to see. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Zeus, how about you? What you've been playing?
Quite a bit of stuff, actually. I'll go most recent to least recent. So I'm on about, like, 2 hours of sleep because last night. So when I bought my first GTX 1070, when I built my new gaming PC, it came with a free with a redemption code from AMD for Deus Ex Mankind Divided. So at that point, I had already bought it on PS4, but I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get it for the PC because I'm sure the graphics will be better, and they are. Markedly in the area of lighting, you can definitely see the advanced lighting effects, and even with my SLI rig with two GTX 1070s in there, I couldn't effectively crank it all the way up. When I benched it, it was clocking like 13 frames per second, and I felt that was a little bit unplayable. So I backed off of the DirectX 12 effects and dropped it to DirectX 11. And I think its maximum multi-sampling anti-aliasing is like 16, and I backed it down to like 8 or 4. But at that, with that little bit of back off, and I think I dropped from triple buffering VSync to double buffering VSync, and now the game plays at right about 30 frames per second, which is fine because Deus Ex is not like a Call of Duty style like first-person shooter. Game looks gorgeous. It took a little while to get comfortable with the controls, but once I started kind of settling in, because I'd been playing with the PS4 controller and not keyboard and mouse. And Deus Ex, for anybody who's played any game in that series, it's got a few more clicks and key punches that are different than some games. Probably control-wise, it plays a little more like Crysis. It kind of took me a while to get back into that paradigm and get accustomed to bringing up like the augmentation wheel and the weapon wheel and the inventory wheel, and making my selections from that. It is a very hard game in combat. Not as bad as the first Deus Ex, which was just like, if you attracted a guard's attention, it was just like impossible. But this one's still hard, typically because when one guard gets alerted and sees you, it's not just one, right? At least 2 to 3 to 6 respond. So, actually, so on the PS4, I'm playing more aggressively and going with lethal weapons in the opening chapter. And in this one, I went with non-lethal force. So I had a big, like huge trank dart rifle, which looks gorgeous. The modeling on that weapon in the game is amazing. But it definitely made it a little tougher. Made me play. I've got two archive videos from the 2 live streams last night up on my YouTube channel, Rounding Off Infinity, that you can go check out. But definitely had me playing in a stealth operational mode for far longer a period of time than I ever particularly care for. But I had an awesome time playing that last night. And then I actually went back into my backlog and played some Forza Horizon 2 on the Xbox One. I've got 3, and I did pull my my Horizon 3 download over to the Xbox One. I started playing it on PC, but had a blast playing that. I drove the pink like 1967 Flower Power minivan for a couple of the races, so that was pretty interesting. I got to Forza Horizon 2 because I tried to do a live stream of Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, and wound up. And again, it was a morning that I was playing on very, very, very little sleep. And when I get very little sleep, I get easily confounded by puzzles in games, and I generally don't like puzzles in my third-person action games. I get it, they need to present you a challenge, but like I just want to go right and unlock the story and get into the action. So because of the bad taste left in my mouth and the fact that my live stream archive basically shows me fumbling about in a room in a tomb for an hour, unable to figure out how the heck to get out of it, I said maybe my next game that I post to my YouTube channel should be something that I'm good at. And I really had a blast finally getting back to a Major League Baseball The Show 16 on the PlayStation 4. I haven't even. I don't think. So I did. So I finally completed my first game, and the first time I booted that up and played it, it was about an hour, just me like learning the systems and understanding how to manage my rosters. And I'm not a huge baseball fan, so I don't have those paradigms in my head like I used to have when I watched tons of NFL football and played Madden. So I have played a lot of baseball in the past, and I have like, kind of a rules engine in my head of how I want my batting order lined up and how to manage my pitchers. But it took a while to get back while concurrently trying to learn the new game mechanics and how they worked. But I really had a blast. It was really, unfortunately, I didn't catch the whole game on YouTube, but I caught. I think when I went back to the game save, I was in like inning 3, so I live streamed or video captured like innings 3 through 7. What I didn't capture on YouTube is I was pitching a no-hitter. The game was 0-0. I think in the 7th inning, they scored a home run like right as I switched my pitchers out, so it was 1-0, and I was like, this game's over. Forget it. It's not happening. And in the 9th inning, I popped a homer and then a and then a wall bounce over into left field that brought a second runner home. So I wound up taking the game 2-1. So that those I don't want to say spiritually uplifting, but those huge uplifting moments in gaming that you have, particularly when it's a game in a genre or a subgenre that you haven't played in a while or don't spend a lot of time playing. That's total fist pumping moment when the second run scored, especially, and my guys just walked off the field because we were playing at home. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a great. I mean, whether it's and it seems to happen more with sports games, right? Whether it's a racing game or a sports game, it's something that you're kind of jumping in, and there's that element of chance in there still. That it's not just finishing a level or finishing out a puzzle. There's something where you can line everything up, but there's still that extra element of skill and chance. So it's kind of fun to have that, especially as we head into the World Series. So cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on gaming because it's in what we call games, right? There's almost like two layers of abstraction of the experience, right? First, there's the fact that it's video, right, and it's on your 2D screen. But then the second thing is it's a setting and a thing and a story that we're trying to turn into a game, right? That reflects maybe in another media what might just be a science fiction novel, right, or a movie or something that you experience passively. So like in Destiny, you have to gamify the gamification, right? The equivalent of scoring a touchdown to me in Destiny is I love it when this happens is when I do a super jump in the air with a Titan, right, and then melee a wizard or a witch in midair, right? Because that's not part of the normal game mechanic, right? You kind of have to go out of your way to do those things. And that's the equivalent of scoring a touchdown. But when you play a sports game, right, you don't have to add that second layer of abstraction. You are playing what is inherently a game itself. So it was an enjoyable fist pumping moment. And then finally, the last thing is, and Stone Cold and I have been going back and forth on Facebook. We've both been working through some streaming issues. He was just exploring other options. I was kind of encouraged by him because I kind of fought this battle last year. But I wanted to check out some of the new capabilities in the GeForce experience on PC, and started using what they originally called Shadow Play. Now they just call GeForce Share. And actually, I don't know what's going on, but I couldn't stream Deus Ex Mankind Divided over my Elgato HD60. I'm struggling to think that it's possible that the game's graphics coming out of those SLI cards actually saturated the Elgato HD60's pipe, and that's why it couldn't maintain the bit stream. But I cranked it all the way down to 1.6 megabits per second, which is the minimum bit stream throughput to stream at 720p. And my Elgato HD60 hooked up to a streaming PC couldn't maintain the stream, so I switched over to Shadow Play, and that was a very enjoyable experience. They actually now take your webcam overlay and put it on top of the game as you're playing it. When I'm streaming, one of the things I struggle with is you can never know if you've moved and you're off camera, or if if your camera wobbles or something, you bump the desk and it tips over, then if you're already in the game, you just don't know if you're placing it correctly. So figured out how to get the overlay. So I actually prefer my Rounding Off Infinity kind of branding overlay that I use on YouTube streaming. So pretty nice bit of technology. I just need to figure out, and I think Stone has told me, I just need to figure out how to bump the resolution up, because everything that I streamed last night came out at 480p. But I think Stone has given me the pointers to get it back to 720 or maybe even 1080p. So that's what I've been doing. So Solo, what have you been up to?
I got sucked back into Destiny. Dun dun dun. I went ahead and I bought the whole pack that came out for $60 because I kind of felt like that was a good call, because the Rise of Iron DLC by itself was $30, and I just kind of felt it just seemed like a better idea. So got sucked back in, but on the Xbox One side, I still like it. Still a great game, like we were just saying. It's very exciting when you haven't played it in a long time, and then they give you a character boost to level 40, and then you can walk into the game and go, "Look at me," and then just start mowing everything down that you remember from the first time you played. So it was kind of fun to go through the single player without actually having to work at it, if that makes sense. And then I got to play with Bobo. We went through and did the Rise of Iron single player stuff, but together. And oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. Just the maps, the snow, the mountains. Oh, it's beautiful. I thought the game was really, really nice before, but just to walk into that section of the game, I stopped. We're running a mission. I just stopped on the edge of a mountain, just started. What? You see this? Who did this? So it was just phenomenal stuff. And then that blows my mind. And then on the other side of it, I've been playing Forza Horizon, and Forza Horizon 3 is a beautiful racing game for an open world. And I've been really enjoying that. Pretty much just because it's a racing game. On the other end of that, you don't have to necessarily race at all and enjoy every second of that game. I found myself where I'm just kind of driving around and sliding through traffic and driving over the woods and crashing into trees and flipping over houses. And it's like, it's just a Ferrari. I'll buy another one.
I do like the caravan feature, though. That is probably like my most favorite thing from Horizon 3.
That is probably one of the best new features, I guess, they added. You can actually pick up some AI cars now and again, and they'll follow you down the road. And as you follow them down the road, you get more XP for having them with you. You can find signs that you couldn't find before because they're actually kind of looking for them for you. It's kind of neat to have that. And then you can just disband it. You like have a group of guys, there's like 6 cars, you're cruising down the road, crisscrossing, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm done. And then everybody just breaks up.
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned race too. You know, you're just traveling along. These guys, you honk your horn at them as you're passing by them. They join with your caravan, and then you can. I don't know what the maximum number of followers you can obtain, but you can obtain a pretty big number, and then you can just hit start a race, and it'll lay down like new waypoint or whatever you race to your destination or whatever. So yeah, it's really awesome.
Right, and everybody just go. I think it's really neat because sometimes when you play with your friends and stuff like that, like I get people online with me, and we'll play, and you can't always get everybody to want to do the same thing. So you can kind of force the AI to do it for you every once in a while, which is kind of nice. I also like the multiplayer side of it now with the free roam because they've actually kind of upped the ante a bit to where you can almost do 2 different things completely separate. So like if you have like 6 people in the lobby and 3 people want to go do a race, the other 3 people can just keep driving. They don't have to join your race at all. And then when the race is over, everybody just comes back into the same lobby. There's no like loss of connection, like, hey, we're going to go and just invite me when we get back. Kind of like the GTA effect. That's how I look at it. Because Grand Theft Auto is one of those games that if you want to go do something with another person, you have to actually leave the lobby you're in, go into a multiplayer hopper and make it private, play it, and then if you want to go back to where everybody else is, you have to get an invite from them. It's very frustrating. If you had the seamless stuff like Horizon has, I think GTA would be a lot more fun, even though I have been playing that because they just came out with DLC for that. They came out with a motorcycle gang DLC. Been playing that a little bit, but since Destiny and Horizon, I don't really have time for anything else. Those games can really, just like Gray was saying with Elite Dangerous, that's what Destiny does to me. I start playing it and I'm like, I'll just do one more thing, or I'll just go over here and do this, or I'll just go over there and fight that guy. And then 4.5 hours later, I'm like, it's the morning. I should have been sleeping, and I see the sun. So, not saying that happened recently.
Sure.
My girlfriend actually came downstairs one night right after I got the game. I'm like, I'm going to play Destiny. And she's like, okay. And it was like 11 o'clock. I'm like, I'm just going to play it for like an hour. And then like, I think it was like 4:30. It's going on 5 o'clock in the morning. She comes down all stumbling down. And she's like, are you still playing that game? I'm like, what time is it? It's like 5. I'm like, oh, not anymore. It's like, so I got off. But you get, I think you guys actually alluded to it either a podcast or 2 ago, that the game is so social that when you run around, you can join into like 2 other people and you can see them. And next thing you know, you have like a whole squad, and you're just running around with a bunch of guardians doing a bunch of things, and you don't even know them. You don't know who they are, but you all have the same mindset. Everybody knows what they're there for and why they're there. I think I did the warm wind where you fight the war. I think I did it like 4 times in a row with just random people, just because it was fun to get in there and see what you could do with different people. And that's what I like about Destiny. It's such a community-based game. It really makes it
Yeah.
fun to play.
There's really no way for other people to grief you, right? There's no friendly fire.
Really, it hurts them in the end. Like it hurts you too a little bit, but it's one of those, like, if you're going to turn on me, it's not really going to hurt my game as much as it's going to cause you more problems in the long run. Although there is where you have to collect things and build your guns and what's that word you guys talked about a minute ago?
Crafting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Destiny, it kind of happens like automatically, right? Like you
really do. You're
Yeah.
right. Like you get a gun and you're like, nope, I don't want that. Like you can kind of tell, like it's almost kind of like a secondary thing. It's not like the end of the world if you don't have to. You can pick up a gun and it'd be pretty good right off the bat and not really feel like I gotta go here and I gotta spend 2 hours, digging in the dirt, proverbially dirt, and find as many of these pieces of metal that stick out of the ground until my gun is worth being able to use for anything. It's not like that. So it is kind of a secondary thing, but it does help.
Yeah. I really hope Bungie is learning, and it's tough for me to tell if there's any way for them to observe or notice this silent co-op that occurs, right? Of multiple 3-person strike teams encountering other 3-person strike teams and just banding together kind of out of nothing. I hope they're seeing it, and if the thing I want to see in Destiny 2 is I want to see like 12-person strikes, right? I want to see like bigger fire teams, and you all being able to be on the same comms channel and going and do so. Because I think Destiny, more than any other game from this generation, has the ability to be kind of the PGR3 of the Xbox One, right? Or Call of Duty 3, right? These games that allow multiple people to get together that just kind of have a positive incentive on people working together and playing together, and you finding cool people to game with in public rooms.
I actually I listen to podcasts at work, not just you guys, because you guys are only once a week. I listen to other podcasts at work because it helps pass the time if I'm not watching Netflix without anybody knowing. I listened to a podcast where they actually interviewed one of the marketing heads of Bungie. And he actually had some really insightful things to say about how they are, when he goes to different cons and he meets different people, that Bungie's really taking a lot of notes. Like you said, you really hope they do. He actually broke down like all of the community aspect and how they really didn't think it was going to be such a living, breathing thing. And it's become more community based than they'd ever thought. They thought the people from Halo were going to dislike it. No one was going to like it because they're going to have something that this isn't. You guys used to make Halo, and this is nothing like Halo. This is way too RPG, and where's all the community has been so tight knit about being a guardian that they were blown away. So I think that's why, like, when we got to Rise of Iron, now you're starting to see a slow rotation of them actually listening to their public and actually doing what they said they were going to do when they created a game that was going to give you all the things you want. So I hope, like you say, if the outcry is big enough, I'm hoping that Destiny 2 is one of those, like, it's a game that 10 years from now, you're going to be sitting around going, do you remember Destiny? Because that game was awesome. And that's what you do with a lot of games. Like Burnout Paradise is a good game that you don't really think about until someone says the name, and then you go, yeah, I remember that game. And I'm thinking Destiny's going to be Xbox One's generational gap game. It's going to be one of those games that when you get 3 more iterations into the series of Xboxes, if you will, and the game is good, long, and gone, I think Destiny's going to be what people talk about, even maybe a little more than the latter of the Halos. People are going to stop at 3, and then Destiny's going to be what people are going to talk about more. No one's really going to bring up Halo 5. They're going to talk about Destiny. I really think that's where things are going to go. But that's my opinion. And I'm going to keep it to you because I'm done talking now.
Well, that was great, guys. It was good to hear what everybody's playing, and I also am a big Destiny fan, so you'll get no argument with me from those comments, Solo. And at this point, we typically go into the news, and there's a lot of news out there. Like I just saw that GameSpot gave Titanfall 2 a 9, and GameSpot's been kind of, little less giving out less stars lately than most other or lower ratings than most other news agencies, but that surprised me. But really, the big news we want to talk about this week that kind of eclipses everything else we were going to talk about as far as being of the moment, right, is Nintendo's new console. So, who would like to lead off this section? I'm just looking. Who is the most excited about this console? Who would like to talk about it? Somebody wave their hand at me. I'm thinking it has to be DB. He's the, aren't you? Or is it Osiris? Who is the biggest Nintendo fan here?
Oh, it could be Prime. It could
I don't know.
be. So before I talk about kind of the theoretical excitement around it, I want to turn it over to Zeus to talk about a little bit of the technical aspect of it. And I think for me, this, and I want to preface it, and my excitement in my voice is about the Nintendo not trying to keep up, right? Where in the Wii, they kind of half-arsed it, and it just wasn't functional. I mean, it was a sidestep, but it really wasn't, it didn't add anything a whole lot more. Where this is almost like the actual kind of full vision of what that Wii U tablet was trying to do. And again, it's rather than taking a PlayStation Pro or Scorpio and just creating something more powerful, Nintendo's giving us something different. Whether or not people want it is going to be a whole nother question. But
Well,
it certainly is different.
let me go ahead and pitch it up if you have not seen it yet. The Nintendo Switch, and correct me, guys, if I make any mistakes, correct me, because I have not been following this as closely as everybody else. The Nintendo Switch was kind of pre-announced or announced with a video by Nintendo. And basically, it is a very powerful tablet. It's a tablet gamepad, mobile game device that has a dock, so it can play games on your 60-inch big screen TV. But all of the games I saw, with the exception of what looked like Skyrim, looked like typical Nintendo games. They didn't look like the PS4 Pro or Scorpio games that we're looking forward to. So with that said, it had some cool technology in it where controllers attached to the gamepad and can be detached and used wirelessly. It had a kickstand so it could stand up. It had the dock I already mentioned. The dock is kind of big, and I'm hoping somebody here knows why the dock is so big, because I think all I need is an HDMI cable. I don't know why I need the big dock. But it looks cool, and it's kind of, to me, it's like them saying, we're going 100% in on mobile gaming, and we'll give you a dock so you can play it on your big screen at home too. And we'll give you a Pro controller, so if you want to play, with a controller, you can do that too. And the other thing that we had talked about previously that was confirmed with this announcement was the fact that it's not disc-based. It's cartridge-based, little cartridges, about the size of an SD card, but they look like they're in a rough and tumble packaging, making them a little bit bigger than an SD card. So, and the other thing I think we can say here now is there's no BC, backward compatibility, which had been such a big thing with the last two iterations. Or I mean, the original Wii, right, had ports so you could put your what was it, your GameCube?
GameCube, yep. And the Wii, you could play your Wii games on, yeah, the 3DS, you could play DS. But again, Nintendo's marketing on this, their messaging on it is not that it's a handheld, it's that it's a console game experience that you can take with you. And so I think that's where the aspect of the power that they're trying to push, whether or not it becomes a console game experience in a year from now when people have a Scorpio or a Pro, but when the Nintendo Shield is in their hands, it becomes. Yes, I did.
Did you do that deliberately?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
The
I'm going to use
NVIDIA
that,
Switch.
just so you know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
So tell
be-
us,
be-
Zeus,
before
why
we-
it is the shield.
Before we kick it to Zeus, those people who are going to want this mobily, those people are going to want to take this on the road with them. They're going to have to be a serious gamer, right? Because if you just want a casual game, you're going to have that on your tablet already. So this has to be either for a serious. It has to be for serious gamers. That's my opinion. And Zeus, take it away.
Yeah, so by all means, as I get into this, feel free to jump in and guide me. The technical aspects of this and the DNA can get kind of wide. So if there's a specific thing you want me to hit on, let me know. And if you want me to shorten it up, let me know too.
Let's talk processor power. Let's talk battery life, because that's going to be a concern if it is going to be something that hardcore gamers are going to play. Not even hardcore gamers, but people who want that console experience. How is it not going to have a Pokemon Go aspect of needing to have a battery life with you? I mean, another battery with you.
Sure. So first of all, the reason I had to step away is I wanted to have a little visual aid here. So this is the NVIDIA Shield Android TV. All right. So this is a product that completed design about January of 2015. That's an important date because it marks the potentially the theoretical design cycle for the Nintendo Switch, which by the time it releases next spring would have meant Nintendo would have had 2 years to work on it, right? From the time that team completed this and sent it to market. And I think the Android TV started showing up in March of last year. But I think they were basically done engineering it in early 2015. So you can check out the size, and I'm going to use this is a Samsung Galaxy Note 5. So this is a 5.5-inch Android device. So it's not a perfect mapping, but you can kind of get a feel for surface area wise. It's basically twice the size of a Note 5 is what I would say. If I kind of, monkeyed around with this, two to 2.5 times, I would say. So definitely feasible for packing this much power into a. I haven't looked at it specifically, but I'm guessing from what I've seen that the Switch is like a 8-inch tablet. It didn't look like a full-size 10-inch like an iPad, but it looked a little bit bigger than an iPad mini. So this is powered by an NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor. So the throughput on the X1 processor is about 1 teraflop. The Xbox One and PS4 I believe are like 1.54 teraflops, and the Xbox One is like 1.34 or 35 teraflops. So we're talking about a processor that runs at roughly 67% of a mainline desktop gaming console. From an experience perspective, another key thing is this thing pushes 4K video, right? So Netflix content, YouTube content, this thing renders on large screen TVs at 4K. Which I think that resolution is like 3840 by 2160p, and we can have a discussion on another day of why 4K video is not actually 4,000 lines of resolution, and that's because most TVs that are shipping today are UHD, and that's a different spec than pure HD. So my point is that it's completely.
Come back to the surface, Zeus. Come on back to the surface.
Yeah. So it's completely feasible for Nintendo to pack enough power into this device that it will be nearly at parity with an Xbox One or PS4. So I take extreme difference to people who are saying this is going to be yet again another underpowered Nintendo console, because I can join that with the argument that it makes very little, I'll say no sense to me, the people who are theorizing that what is in the Switch is a nerfed version of the X1. NVIDIA has had 2 years to work on a mobile processor. Now, from the business model of NVIDIA, the whole point of them making these Shield devices was because they were trying to generate, they were basically taking their own silicon, putting them into product, getting it out on the street, and hoping that they could generate interest in OEMs who would then take their processors and put them in mobile phones and tablets. That did not work. However, what it seems like they engendered was the interest of Nintendo, and when they went to seal that deal with Nintendo, the other thing that happened earlier this year is all of the Shield devices got pulled off the market. So you can get them from resellers, but there are no new Shields like the original like controller-looking thing with a screen hinge on it, or Shield K1 tablets. They did release a secondary SKU of the Shield tablet, and there's no Shield Android TVs being released. I firmly believe that's because they took that team and converted them over entirely to completing the design for the Switch, and they didn't want to be distracted by having to maintain, iterate, or continue to pour new capabilities via software updates into the Android TV. So what I believe is that they've already said that the Switch is going to be built on NVIDIA's Pascal architecture. This was built on Maxwell architecture, which was the preceding architecture. Those architectural frameworks are the same frameworks that they utilize to manufacture, design, and implement their graphics cards for PCs. So the fact that the Switch is built on Pascal means that it's built on the same architectural framework that they're using to manufacture the GTX 1000 series cards, which obviously are the most powerful video cards that have been delivered to consumers in recent history. The GTX 1060M, so that is the mobile processor that they're going to put in laptops, which are currently showing up in laptops on market, push 3.54 teraflops. I can't come up with any reason why the Switch would not have a custom variant of that chip. So that is the lowest power 1000 series processor, that graphics processor that NVIDIA makes right now and has delivered to market. It makes sense to me that it would at least be a customized variant of the 1060. So Gray is saying a 1050. I don't think 1050s have shown up at market yet, Gray. I think that we've seen benchmarks for them and that they're prepping them to be made available commercially, but I don't think they're like sitting on store shelves now for purchase. And I haven't seen any laptops. If you go to Newegg, right, and look for GTX 1000 Series M cards, I think you'll only find 1060, 1070, and 1080M. But they may have shipped. If they've shipped like this month, because I've been tracking this thing through the month of October. So if we talk about them, if we say that the Switch, sorry, I got hung up on a cable here. If we're saying that the Switch is capable of pushing 3.54 teraflops, right? Yeah, is it going to be underpowered? Sure, in comparison to Scorpio, which we only have a claim of right now and hasn't shipped and hasn't been delivered. But we're still talking about a console that will have twice the capability of the current PlayStation 4. Not the Pro. I haven't actually checked to see what the compute throughput is on the Pro. But so all of this leads me to believe that we're going to get, screen-wise, it's going to be at least a 1080p screen. I'm pretty sure on that tablet. I would be surprised if it's not a 2560. I would be surprised if it's not closer to a 4K screen. I think it's going to be a 2560 by 1440, which is QHD. The reason I say that is because that's what pretty much all of your high-end mobile phones are shipping with now. Your high-end tablets are that resolution or higher. And it would be more expensive for Nintendo to have NVIDIA procure lower res screens now and heading into next year. So I don't think there's any way in the world it'll be less than 1080p, and even that'll be a little bit more expensive. I think most manufacturing lines on screens for mobile devices are geared towards cranking out 2560 by 1440 screens. So I think that's kind of mostly what we're getting. And what Gray mentioned, I just want to, in my mind, I think there's a distinct line between mobile gaming and portable gaming. And when I say mobile gaming, I'm basically tightly coupling that to the notion of touch. We haven't heard anything about the Switch utilizing a touch interface. It's all going to be via controller, as far as we know. That will back off some of the expense that might be required in using a capacitive or a resistive touch screen. Even if it is touch, Nintendo's still been doing touch devices, right, with the Nintendo 3DS. So, I don't think it's a problem if it is a touch device. I think their primary interface that they're looking for is going to be with the controllers, and I think the fidelity of those games. Again, it's NVIDIA that's basically designing and maybe manufacturing some of these, or maybe all of them. If you've ever played on an NVIDIA Shield device, when you utilize that Shield controller, which connects over Bluetooth, the fidelity of that control is the same as you have in a console. It significantly magnifies the experience in comparison to utilizing it they're playing a game with touch. And on my Android TV, some people have questioned, well, why do I want to buy? Because they saw the Skyrim thing. That doesn't excite me to go play a game that's 5 years old or whatever. But my thing is, my Android TV cranks out Half-Life 2, and it looks as good as any PC. That means that the only thing that we need is for people to make the content for it. The device is completely capable of pulling off that fidelity of game and control.
So, Zeus, did you just become a Nintendo defender?
I am. I'm going to pre-order this, and this will be the first Nintendo device that I've ever pre-ordered. I waited in line for the Wii. That was a huge disappointment. I've predicted that the launch price of this is going to be $299. At $300, it's worth the risk for me to be wrong. To be in on the ground floor as this thing hits the market. And some people have taken umbrage with me with saying, well, $299 is too much, right? If it's $299, Nintendo's failed. I'm like, let's go back and look at the Nintendo 3DS, which launched at $249.99. That was unsuccessful, on a global scale. But still, it was $249.99, and then they dropped it to $199. Still, $200 for a portable device. Certainly, I think $299 is a feasible MSRP. And the other thing is for parents buying this thing. I'm going back to Gray's comment about you've got to be a hardcore gamer. I don't know. Parents whose kids are into Nintendo have been buying a Nintendo console to hook up to the TV, and often then going and buying their portable device. Now you're just going to buy one device for $299, which is less than the total cost that you would have paid for a Wii plus 3DS or Wii U plus 3DS.
No, I think there's definitely, for those parents who don't want to give their youngsters a cell phone, there's definitely an appeal to it, especially since it comes with 2 controllers. So if you have 2 kids, they can share it. But for the very young children, I don't think it's going to be an option, because that you just let them use your cell phone or you let them use your old tablet, because they're going to be playing games that are so simple that they're not going to need something of this power. But I definitely see it at that. I think it's going to be extremely popular in the 6 or 7 to 12-year-old range. I think it'll be extremely popular, because those are the ages where you're trying to keep, well, in many cases, trying to keep them away from a cell phone, trying to just keep them occupied with something that's powerful enough to keep their attention. So I do. But again, if you just want to play Candy Crush, this is not going to be your console.
So my thing my theory is I think one of the reasons this has a chance to be successful in that use case is because it can scale, right? And this is my experience on the Android TV. I can play very minimalist, non-complex variants of mobile games on a big screen TV. I can also play, an asphalt game from Gameloft that is as sophisticated as a Need for Speed title. So I think, and they've got to bring the developers, but I think you're going to have the same type of content that you've had with Nintendo games, but you have the potential, because the great thing about these processors is they bring more mainstream and standard APIs that devs are used to dealing with, right? The X1 supported OpenGL and DirectX. I don't see any reason why an X2 wouldn't, which again just provides the opportunity for people to bring their core games and the standard Nintendo kind of mascot-oriented titles. Just before we go over to marketing, I want to address quickly DBQ's question about battery life. So most tablets today, the Android TV is a powered device that has no mobile capability. I believe that the Shield K1 tablet had a battery life of around 6.5 hours. When you game on these things, it dips to maybe 3.5 to 4. iPads are kind of a different story, but my going in guess is that this is going to have a battery life of 3 to 4 hours. I firmly believe that at launch or shortly thereafter, Nintendo will have some type of on-the-go battery pack that you can connect to the thing, maybe over cable that sits on your airline tray. It may be something that bolts right onto it. And certainly, if Nintendo does it, like every third-party accessory maker on the planet is going to have a battery pack that's available to extend its battery life.
Before we leave the technical side, does anybody think there's a possibility that the stand contains additional graphical horsepower for being hooked to a big screen?
I was actually questioning that myself when I looked at it, and they would pop it on. And the more and more I've looked at the back and the front and the different sides that they've shown pictures of it, I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's really just a place to plug things in. I don't really think it's going to have anything more or less that's going to be inside that little tiny. I mean, it's not even really that big. It's really just enough space for a few wires to plug in to get to your TV. So when you play in your
It
living
looks
room,
to me, it looks like it's bigger than the Switch itself. The stand you put it in. Am I
close,
wrong?
but not quite. Not quite.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit bulkier, but there was actually an announcement, or not announcement, but a comment from one of the Nintendo officials that said the dock is just for charging and to get the picture to your TV, so there's no additional graphical or anything like that power in there. So unfortunately,
But has anybody looked in it? Does it have? Because this was my thought when I looked at it initially, and I haven't gone in search of like images with different angles. It looked to me at one point that it had slots to hold 2 tablets.
not that I noticed. I didn't notice that, but like, yeah, I haven't really. I haven't done the same thing. I haven't really seen pictures or either. If there is even pictures of multiple angles, I don't know. Who knows?
Because when I've looked at it, that was my thought that it's a bay that can hold one and has all the connectorization to connect to the TV and Ethernet and all that stuff. But it may have a charging bay for a second tablet. Again, so if they just sell the tablet separately at a lower price without all the accessories with it, then that's your way of like, with me and my 2 daughters, right, getting to a point where they each have their own display and their own, and they break off one of the slide-on controllers, right, and they're playing wirelessly together locally. But I don't know.
There's a couple USB ports too on the one side that I can see on the one picture here I'm looking at real quick. So I don't know. You can expand at least the memory or something, or the hard drive maybe.
Yeah, I do believe there's a slot somewhere to expand the memory. I've heard somebody in one of the articles I've read, there's supposed to be kind of like an SD card pop in that you're able to put in more memory. That way, when you put the device back into the slot or something like that, it expands it there. I'm not really sure. That might just be like a media thing for all I know.
Yeah.
But I know I've looked into, and that kind of makes me wonder, because it goes into that situation where, like, I think it was Gray was saying before, when it came to like who's gonna buy it, who's gonna want it, like, I'm gonna get, your parents are gonna buy it for their kids, but are like, as an adult gamer, I go to my Xbox, like, who's this really going to be geared towards, and I don't know. It's one of those situations, and then I go back to how Zeus was saying he has his 2 daughters, and I have 3 kids that would want to play it. So it would be one of those. If I were to buy one, yeah, I can just imagine. I already have it with the Wii, because I only have one Wii and one little. It's not little. One gigantic tablet to carry around that doesn't have that far of range, which is another concern of mine. Obviously, it's supposed to be mobile and you can take it anywhere, but how does that work? Do you have to be connected to Wi-Fi to be mobile? Is it open to some kind of, does it have, like your cell phone? Do you have to be connected to a remote? How does that going to work to where I could give it to all 3 of my kids and they can go to your rooms, and they can go to their rooms and they can play the same game together? Is it going to have the same? Because I've seen peripherals and things like that 2 of them have 3DSs and they play games together, but as soon as they get 20 feet apart, it all goes away. And I wonder how this is going to go in that sense, because I don't want to spend $900 for all my kids to play multiplayer. So I wonder. Those are all the questions I come as a parent going into the season of purchasing it. Am I just going to buy one, even though I got 2 other kids that are going to just break the thing in half to fight over it? So that's where I go.
So I think I've seen Nintendo being on record that this is not going to be a dual screen experience, right? So it's not like going to be like the Wii U where you're able to, where one person is able to look at the tablet while the thing is going on the screen, right? You're going to have to be docked and not using the screen to get the display onto your TV. I do believe, though, again, based on the notion that this is NVIDIA DNA, right? And NVIDIA has delivered devices that are tablets with integrated Wi-Fi. I firmly believe that these will be devices that connect to your Wi-Fi LAN and will be able to recognize each other on the LAN and play that way. Vice the 3DS and other Nintendo portable devices that have connected, I think, locally. and not necessarily going through Wi-Fi.
Well, that little the introduction video, they always showed like the people like right there, like right next to each other. So hopefully there is that expanded range that they'll have to it. Hopefully. So.
Well, yeah, I think I would reckon that those people have established a local Wi-Fi LAN, unlike you can do anything, which will limit your range. But I think it'll have the capability to just connect to your Wi-Fi base station, and depending on how you manage wireless comms in your house, you could. If you've got good coverage, then you can have a kid in the basement and a kid on the second floor, connected wirelessly.
Well, before we go around the room to get some more thoughts on this, I just want to throw out that most of the sites that I had read were predicting 720p or 1080p screen on this. Now, I agree with Zeus in the fact that all the cell phone companies are doing much, much higher resolution than that. But those phones usually cost about $800 as well. So I think it'll be extremely interesting to see if the screen is indeed, QA, something better than 1080p, I guess. But I want to go back to Prime and get some of your thoughts about this. What are your thoughts, Prime?
Yeah, I wanted to expand on the marketing kind of aspect of this, and it's something that I heard on a podcast actually just today, I think, maybe even yesterday. But they're noticing in the introduction video, how it didn't seem like the normal Nintendo marketing. It wasn't like families and grandmas and kids playing, this. It was, 20, 30 somethings, pretty much on all the throughout the video. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't even think about it until they had mentioned it. But they're right. It is just adults basically playing the system, and I don't know what you guys thought of that. If they're kind of trying to get away from the kid aspect. Obviously, they still have Mario and they have Zelda, but they had the NBA. I guess that was 2K's basketball game, I'm assuming, and they had Skyrim on there. So I don't know what you guys kind of thought about the marketing aspect of what they're trying to do here.
So I'll say, as a parent whose kids have been into Nintendo since they were 2 and 3, I think that the marketing that really struck me. I mean, that it was a whole advertisement full of hipsters, and and not necessarily Nintendo's traditional base. But the more that I've thought about it, and I've heard other people kind of comment on this fact, but the piece that the analyst in me, the economic business analyst aspect of it, is that unless Nintendo's going to put it out for pre-order this holiday season, it doesn't do them any good to pitch it to parents yet, right? That there's nothing that people can buy yet. There's nothing really to get too excited for. People that are tapped into Nintendo's base are going to already be aware of it, because on the 3DS and on the Nintendo and the Wii U, they're advertising for it. I mean, so people that are using Nintendo products are going to see it. It's people that maybe have turned away from Nintendo. It ties in with their new Pokemon marketing, which is targeting 20-year-olds in their lapsed Pokemon fandom. So I think that when we come around into March and it's going to be close to store shelves, then we'll see, a parent sitting down and detaching the controllers and playing it with their kids, and whether or not you can connect more than 2 people onto the same screen, and Solo can have all 3 of his kids play at the same time. That would be great. But I think at this stage, since they're not at the place of selling it yet, they're trying to get the lapsed Nintendo fan. They're trying to get people that are used to playing PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones and give them a reason to consider Nintendo.
And I think that's a great idea, because this holiday, a lot of those people are going to have a choice between an Xbox One S, a PS4 Pro, maybe even a PSVR. And now they can say, maybe I'll just save my money. And this Nintendo looks really cool. The Switch, it's portable. No, I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant marketing.
Yeah, and the number one. So I think I misquoted what I think the screen size is. I believe it's actually been said that this is going to be a 6-inch screen. So we're talking about Amazon Kindle Fire 6-inch size. So we talked about a bit of the marketing. So my guess on the marketing was kind of like Microsoft came at the Xbox One, right? Granted it was ill-fated, but they came out of the gate trying to market to a specific demographic. Not their entire demographic, not really even their core demographic, but they first came out attempting to market to that gamer that basically only buys Call of Duty and Madden each year, right, and spends the rest of their time consuming online content and watching TV. So they didn't come out of the gates trying to market to the people who are like us, who by the end of the generation have a library of 30, 40, 50 different games, right? I feel like Nintendo has come out of the gate trying to market to the people, the demographic that they need to get on board. They don't need to get us on board because we grew up with the Super NES. You know, people who, and that's not me, but people who fall into those slots are lifetime Nintendo fans like DBQ and Osiris. They don't need to market to them. And those are the people most likely to have sufficient disposable income to buy the thing in the first place, right? So they don't need to market to them. They don't need to market to 10 to 15-year-olds because if they're into Nintendo, they're into Nintendo, and they're going to ask their parents for the console anyway. But like you said, Gray, that this lapsed Nintendo gamer, right, the 20-something who gaming is still social. It's social not only online, but with the people that you go to the bar with on the weekends, or take road trips with on the weekends. I think those are the people that they're trying to market to. And we mentioned a little while ago about who's going to buy this thing. So I just went, my use case is not only the kids, but I'm interested in this thing because it gives me another option for gaming while on travel. Not necessarily mobile, right, as I'm running around during the day, but just the notion of, hey, this Thanksgiving, when I have to go to my in-laws' house, do I lug, my 7, 8, 9 pound gaming laptop, right, that I'm going to have struggle to find place to set it up where nobody's going to mess with it or it's going to be in somebody's way. That gives me gaming fidelity at a higher level than, I have on my iPad, right? And that's, now I'm doing day trips and overnight trips. So it's still not 1 week, 2 week things, out in the field, but still, it'll be a nice option that will be beyond my phone. Because, the other thing is, for me as an adult, I still don't like to use my phone for a lot when I'm on travel, right? Because I need my phone's battery power for communications, right? So I'm very wary about doing that gaming and music and video on the go unless I'm sitting in a hotel room with a plug. And this might just provide me that additional option.
Anybody else have comments? We're over time, so I just want to go around and DB, you got any more comments on the Switch?
Yeah, I just think I want to say two things. One, as somebody who is preparing to use their Vita next week as I'm hitting the road for travel, I think Zeus's point is right, is that there is an option here. There's an avenue here of people that are away from their screens. I think the other piece, and I doubt that Nintendo's actually going to have the capacity to do this, but for those people that are lapsed older Nintendo gamers, with the NES Classic Edition supposedly coming out, right? The Retro 30 console, the little mini one, somehow bundling some type of marketing about the Switch in with that, because that's going to also catch those people who do remember that and are going back to that lapsed gamer, and that would be even something like, here's a $5 or $10 credit on their new, whatever their Nintendo shop will be, right? Something that gives somebody a reason to come back and look at it. I think that it'll be really interesting to see what more we find out, right? I mean, we haven't even talked about the vents on the system itself, and whether it's an active fan or some type of heatsink, and again, this could all be for naught, because as much as I may be excited about something that is different than what I have right now, just because they put up a list of publishers doesn't mean that they're going to come through. And that's going to ultimately be the biggest strength or weakness here, is that whether, like Zeus is saying, that this is something that's easy to port to, or it's something that big publishers just kind of throw one port out, and if they don't sell the first time, we're moving on again. So it'll be interesting to see. Prime?
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say Solo. You got any more to say about the Switch?
Actually, I have two small things to say, and I'm going to try not to make it sound like I don't like Nintendo. Because I do like Nintendo, because I have played Nintendo. It was my first console. I remember being a wee lad and picking up the console back when it was one of the first things I ever played. I still have it. It's sitting behind my TV. It's hooked to my HD TV and does not play HD anything. And I still have a Super Nintendo. I have both iterations of the Super Nintendo that they came out with, the big one and then the little tiny one. Nintendo for me is how it all really started to become mainstream. So it's not like I don't like Nintendo. They had some really strange hiccups over time with the Cube, which was horrible, and then a few other consoles that just didn't hit it. This one, on the other hand, I feel like they're bridging a gap, kind of like Zeus was saying. I get the feeling like what they're doing here is the Wii was kind of childish. It felt childish. It even felt poorly conceived. This, on the other hand, kind of feels like they sat back and thought, how can we bring not only gamers that sit and play on their tablets that have no interest whatsoever in Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo in any way, shape, or form, any of those kinds of things, how can we bring them off of their cell phones and bring them to a console that doesn't really feel like a console, and then get into those games? Because that's what I think where they were marketing to. Like they were saying, like, you have those 20 somethings, but there's also a group of people out there that they play video games. They're gamers. They just don't know it. They don't realize that they do it. There's people out there that are obsessed with checking Clash of Clans every day. And they will go and they will say till they're blue in the face, I am not a gamer. Yes, sir. Yes, you very much are. And that's the thing that they're trying to kind of grab onto. You got a bunch of guys playing basketball, and then they stop playing the actual game to sit down at a bench and start playing it. You know what? These are the guys that would normally say, I don't play video games. Now they might actually take that with them, sit down on a break, or maybe because the court's filled up, and say, let's still play the game we love while we wait for a court to open up. That's where I think they were going with marketing, and I think that's genius because there are gamers in everybody, and they don't realize it. I think this is a good way to get people more into it. The only problem I foresee is this is going to be like a springboard, and people are going to use Nintendo, they're going to play it, and then go, I could really wish I had something that played better games like Call of Duty. And then they're going to drop their Nintendo, and you're going to see the PlayStations and the Xbox spike. And that's where I worry about Nintendo. They're going to be like that leap, but they're not going to. They're basically how I say I started playing video games on Nintendo. Xbox came out. I don't really remember playing one since. So I worry for Nintendo. This is a great idea. I love the handheld. I like the idea of being able to pack it up and go on a road trip, use it, pull two controllers off of it, lay it down, and then two people actually play it. My girlfriend and I talk about it all the time. We should just take the Xbox with us when we go to whatever town we're going to go take a trip to so we can have something to do in the evening times. I don't want to unhook it. I don't want to pull it all together and put it in a box. This gives me the opportunity to do that. And you don't have to bring anything extra. There's two controllers waiting for you right on both sides of the tablet. Great idea. I just worry that it's not going to have a long-lasting appeal, or it's going to push people further beyond themselves. So that's kind of where my opinion came from Nintendo's idea. Not saying I'm not going to buy one, because I think it's fantastic and I'm going to pre-order it. There's no doubt about that, because I think it's the coolest little thing ever. So.
Well, that's great. Hey, Prime, any final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just obviously we didn't get to some of the games that came with it. Solo mentioned the controller. There's various different ways you can play the Switch that they've shown, pro controllers, the little mini controllers and all that kind of stuff. But I am actually really excited about this system. I did like the Wii U, but there really wasn't too many games that for what the games I was playing, like right now that came out for it. But you saw. The basketball game, NBA. You saw Skyrim potentially, maybe. They haven't officially said anything. That'd be really, really cool. I was thinking, you know what? I can be playing that, at night, late at night, 4 a.m, like Solo maybe. And then, have to go to sleep for an hour, get up, get to work, and then, I can just take it with me. I'll play it during lunch, at breaks and stuff like that. So, it's a really cool thing. I was also thinking, if they do have that third-party support, this could be my main system. I'm not hung up on 4K and all that. If it's 1080p, even 720, I'll deal with that. That's fine with me. I don't care. This could be just the one system that I'll buy, and then that's it. I won't buy any more Xbox or anything like that anymore. Maybe.
Right. So what I just heard was your Scorpio order is getting canceled, and you're going to buy another copy of Skyrim.
Yep. This is the man that has Minecraft and pretty much everything imaginable, so I will buy a second copy of Skyrim.
Now, this would be like, because you already said you're definitely getting the Legendary Edition. Now you're going to get the Switch Edition too.
That's right, I will. But yeah, so yeah, I'm very excited, and hopefully we'll talk obviously in the weeks and months to come, more on this. So, Zeus, final thoughts?
Final thoughts, Zeus?
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to add is, and Solo kind of almost invoked it. I think the biggest thing for me is if this is a turning point for the Nintendo culture, where they're finding successes, I feel like, based on the evidence trail, that they stopped trying to do things that are not their core competency. I don't. I'm going to make a statement. They didn't design this console. NVIDIA did. And so what Nintendo did was, rather than take everybody's advice, including mine, that said they should get out of the hardware business and just do games, is I think they went to NVIDIA and said, look, we've been boning this up for like the last 3 consoles, right? We need your guys' help. You guys are the hardware experts. You're the leading class GPU manufacturer today. We don't care what you do with the hardware. Just give us a platform that's competitive and allows us to undercut the competition, and that will host our games. And I think NVIDIA went to work. They made Son of Shield, and we have what to me looks like a pretty fairly amazing device, where there's a convergence of what NVIDIA was trying to do in their business model of, look, they were kind of like a startup, right? We don't really want to be in the business of making Shield devices for the rest of our life. We want to get somebody else interested in this thing, in the startup company kind of, and sell it, right? And I think that's what they've done. And I think Nintendo's win is, take your hands off the wheel and let somebody who's the real subject matter expert drive this thing. And if that's the case, then they're potentially walking into an era that solves the past problems of the last few decades that we've been criticizing them for.
Well, I want to just jump in and say you're right, Zeus, because Nintendo's core competency is using the hardware to create good game experiences. And if what you said is right, then that'll do it.
I also agree with him as well.
Okay, great. We'll finally give you your podcast back.
No, it's our podcast, and we are over time. So we're going to end it here, and we're going to do a quick rollout. I want to thank you, the listener and viewer, for coming out and listening to us. And on behalf of, let's start with Solar Racer X and DBQ Hands and Osiris Prime. And why is Zeus on my screen twice now? And Zeus Adamus.
One's not enough.
At a momentary glitch.
We thank you all for listening and watching. And until next week, peace.